All right, so you just finished part two. So you were designing your own your own study in your document in Google Classroom. Again, I showed you mine that I started and did not finish, but you will. So after you've made it through the first chunk, designing a study, you got to this point, analyzing your study. So I'm going to go back to the slides and just go over some of the instructions. So basically, for this last part of today's assignment, you're going to be analyzing your study through the lens of different concepts we've learned about in units 1 and 2. So you are going to, as it says here in the directions, you're going to go back to your study and then scroll down to the analyzing your study part. So any good scientist, psychologist, human being should always be reflective, right? And you are going to be looking a little bit into what are some of the constraints of this study? Why did you make this decision? And doing some analysis. So the first question asks you, explain how you'd use descriptive statistics. So the AP test loves to talk about stats every now and then. So this is in module 7. And there's a lot of terms in there. And some of them are like, yep, I've learned this either in AP stats or in math or in science before. So you'll be familiar with them, things like the mean, the mode, the median. But there's also some larger, more broad ideas. So make sure you're reading module 7 to help you with this question. So basically you're saying, how would you use numbers and data to analyze your study? All right. The next one now is saying, how are you going to use inferential statistics? So make sure you pay attention that the first one you're doing descriptive statistics, and the second one you're writing about inferential, because they are different. As most of you know, to make an inference means to kind of make a guess. So inferential statistics are inherently going to be giving you kind of different data. So in this one, you're going to be thinking about how inferential statistics, specifically like statistical significance and reliability of observed differences, plays a role in your analysis of the study. Last part, and this one you're actually going to have to travel a little back in time in your textbook to answer. It says, which psychological approach or perspective is most connected to your study? This is one of the very first things we learned this year. And obviously, these terms we came back to almost every single unit, because in psychology, we're always talking about how you can't look at something just from one lens. You have to see it from a biological, social, cultural, an evolutionary, a humanistic, a whatever other one you can think of lens. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be identifying which of these approaches would be most connected. So, for example, I didn't answer this on mine, but going back to my study about human beliefs about the way they present themselves, I would probably say this goes into either the behavioral or the social cultural, because I'm looking at both behaviors and where they come from. And then I'm also looking at how society has influenced it. So those are the things I'm most concerned about. I'm not really concerned about like evolution. And yeah, obviously I might have a little bit of conversation of how the brain influences it, but that's not necessarily what I really want to focus in on. I'm also not going to get super Freudian here. I'm not going to be like, people are doing this because they have underlying desires, right? Okay. Last question is your study ethical? I mean, I think because these are going to be more survey or observational, they tend to be a little more ethical than an experiment. But still take a look at, are you maybe asking questions or invading in somebody's space a little more than you need to be? But also make sure that you use the ethical guidelines as outlined in Module 8, which is on page 68, to guide this discussion. So if you are like, don't remember those at all, I gave you the page number there specifically to look at. And it goes into a little bit of a conversation about some of the things as a psychologist you need to do. Like you need to get somebody's consent. You need to protect them from harm. You need to keep their info confidential. You need to debrief them after about what you were doing, things like that. After you finish this, you're done. Then you are going to submit it. Obviously, it'll say submit up here rather than share. If for some reason submitting doesn't work, I know that happens for a few of you, just share it with me so I get it. Come back to your slides, and yay, you're finished. Make sure you turn this assignment in by 11:59 tonight, aka Wednesday, April 1st. It is important that you do this and that you do complete it fully, not only because, well, one, I think it's interesting. Two, it's part of your grade. But three, next week at the beginning of our next review lesson, you're going to be actually peer reviewing, which is a really critical part in psychology and science, to make sure that we spend time analyzing, critiquing one another's work to make sure it can improve and that it can be changed for future use. So you're going to be looking at a few other people's work and giving some feedback. All right, that is it. You made it through our first real online lesson. If you have any questions, ask me today during our live hours or during my office hours, which again, live hours for Psych are from 2 to 3 p.m. and office hours for me are from 3 to 4:15. All right.